Okay, Madeline?
Yep, you guys are good.
Okay, all right, we're in progress. Okay, I'd like to again convene the meeting of the Annapolis Human Relations Commission. And I'd like to thank all commissioners for being here this evening. We do have a quorum of the commission. We are going to proceed, and I'd like to express thanks specifically to Madeline Harrell, who is our technical assistant today, and she's going to be working to try to iron out the issues of actually telephoning in for our meeting. All of you, at least our commissioners and others, should have received a copy of the agenda for tonight, as well as the minutes from our June meeting. I'd like to ask if there are any additions or corrections to the minutes. Any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes shall stand approved by common consent. I'm very, very pleased to welcome to our meeting tonight Thornell Jones, who is a leading civil rights advocate and an advocate for education in Annapolis. And he is going to give us a presentation this evening about the Kerwin Blueprint for education in Maryland. Mr. Jones, thank you for joining the commission. The commission has a standing policy of allowing speakers to be moved up on the agenda, and then we simply take some of the more routine business that we do and we'll take it up later. So we would like to invite you at this point to provide your thoughts about the Kerwin Blueprint for education in Maryland.
So I have a presentation that I'd like to give, and I appreciate the offer to share the information that I've gathered over the last couple of years. What I'd like to do is be able to share my screen and oops, get started with that. And I'd like to spend about 10 minutes talking and then open it up for questions. But of course, anytime you have a question you'd like to ask, please do. This is all about transferring information. It's not about me talking. I want to start way back because we need to really understand how important this is. So I'm having a little difficulty already, but there we go. In 2009, the Kinsey report came out that talked about the economic cost of the US education gaps. There are 4 worrisome gaps. The consequences of the gaps are that schools matter profoundly. There's an international gap that that is what's different between the US schools and the schools in advanced nations. There's a racial gap between white and students of color. There's an income gap between low-income families and high. And there's 4 gaps, other gaps that have to do with classrooms, the schools, the districts, and the states. And the economic impact is serious. Let's see. Here we go. The gap is in billions of dollars. Actually, it turns out to be trillions of dollars because in 2008, it's somewhere between 1.3 and 2.3 trillion dollars that our GDP was diminished because of these gaps. Some of the high-performing school systems are in Finland, Ontario, Korea, and if you take that income gap today, it would be somewhere along the average of about $103 billion per state. Now, McKinsey says schools matter profoundly. We need to close the gaps through fixing the inequities in teacher quality and school funding. So a good deal of the information that's being used today comes out of the Carnegie report that was published around 1966. And the leader of that report was a guy named Mark Tucker. Mark Tucker founded the National Center for Education and the Economy in 1988. So for 35 years, they studied the best schools in the world, determined the best practices, and to provide some tools to the states to become world class. They have three centers: the Center for International Education Benchmarking, the Center for Policy Solutions, and the Center for System Leadership. They have been following the Program for International Student Assessment, PISA, which is comparative study of 15-year-old students' knowledge in the three key areas of math, reading, and science. And as you can see from this chart, the United States has been decreasing in its expertise in these three areas. Very important, because we even got worse in math in 2018. They didn't do this study in 2019, so we don't have those numbers yet. Here's the important thing: how to relate that to Maryland. In Maryland, even though we graduate 85% of the students, only 32% of our students are college and career ready at the end of the 10th grade, which the PISA actually measures. So we are really not doing well in the world. What did NCEE do with the information that they gleaned? In 2013, they held a conference for the National Center for State Legislators, who reviewed the results, developed a study group, and then wrote a report. No time to lose. In 2019, it's still the most widely read report from the National Center for State Legislators. They discovered what seemed to work. The common elements in nearly every world-class education system is a strong early education system, a reimagined and professionalized teacher workforce, a robust career and technical education program, and sorry about that, and a comprehensive and fully aligned system of education. So Maryland legislators picked up on that and established the Kerwin Commission in 2016. They came out with some supplemental reports in 2018 about the finances, which are a very important part of the program. And in 2019, their interim report detailed the recommendations. So they said our schools are preparing our graduates for jobs that do not exist and won't exist during the lifetimes of most of our students. Now I switch here to talk about 21st century employment. Ginny Romedy, the recent executive chairperson at IBM, said that 43% of IBM's open job requisitions today don't call for a traditional college diploma. You'll see where that's important in terms of the blueprint. So this chart, one of my last three charts, is going to tell you all about the blueprint, and I'm sure you'll have plenty of questions. The blueprint has five major goals. One is early childhood education. First off, all 4-year-olds should go to free preschool in order to build the capacity for all children to be ready for kindergarten. That 4-year-olds is the beginning. Then it moves down to 3-year-olds, and that's based on income. So one of the things that has to do with early childhood education is family support. So there are Judy centers, family support centers, and community schools that provide some help from ages 0 to 5, support for families people will be able to go to schools and find out all the things that they need to know to get the government supports that are available to make sure that all students are ready for kindergarten. High quality and diverse teachers and leaders is the next thing they focused on. Raising the standards for new teachers, support the current teachers, and rebrand teaching as a profession with a career ladder and raise pay, starting teachers off at $60,000 a year. In order for this program to work, it is essential that they train all superintendents, high-level staff, boards of education on the mission, vision, skills, and knowledge needed to implement this program. This means that they will have to change the way schools are managed and increase teacher tutor time where teachers can work together to help students. No one teacher has to have all the responsibility for every student. College and career readiness is the important standard that we talked about. All 10th graders should be college and career ready. To implement these standards, these global standards, there has to be some transitional supplemental education. All middle school and high school students should meet the college and career standard before they graduate. So they have to have access to a pathways. The current students, the students already in the pipeline, have to have some pathways toward meeting this goal. But all students will have a pathway to meeting that goal by the end of the 10th grade. High school graduation requirements include this college and career ready standard. And one of the things they will do is establish a career and technical education group, a commission to set the standards and manage high school to work options and the process. Meaning some of those courses will be brought into the high school, some will be given at the community college, but students will be able to take these courses in the 11th and 12th grade so that by the time they graduate, they should be ready at least to enter into apprenticeship or beginning jobs in a career they identify. So there are funds to support this process, including funds for workforce development, including setting up the course standards in high school and community college, and making sure that there are jobs available. More resources to ensure all students are successful really has to do with making sure that the money is available where the money is needed, as opposed to where the money comes from. In the past, we've always focused our money where the income from property tax is. The problem with that is we have many students who are failing, and obviously you see only 32% of our students are college and career ready at the end of the 10th grade, so we couldn't have been doing it right. So we are changing that, and that's in the law. The most important part of this law is this governance. They established the Accountability and Implementation Board with an expert staff to set the standards and manage the system by controlling standards and the use of new funds. Meaning, when the standards are not met, the funds will not be spent. So the blueprint is designed for dealing directly with the inequities in our society. And I'd like to say that our schools will prepare our graduates for 21st century jobs, to be good citizens, and to equitably live together. Now, I'm sure you have questions.
Thank you, Mr. Jones, for this presentation. I would like to invite commissioners to raise any questions that they may have for Mr. Jones, or any comments that they have. So the floor is now open for questions and for comments to commissioners, as well as from anyone else who is on the Zoom call this evening.
Well, I have one more comment to make,
Okay,
and that is what you've heard is the structure for improving our education. It is important for everybody to understand this blueprint and to make sure that our government officials, elected, and those on the payroll actually make this work. This seems to me to be our last possible effort to make this work. Our society needs this to work.
okay, and I see we've got some questions from Commissioner Jeremy Brown. Jeremy, you're on mute. And also from Lakeisha Harris, who is the Hatcher, who is the representative from the Anne Arundel County Human Relations Commission. So Commissioner Browning, you have the floor.
I think Lakeisha had her hand up first.
Okay, all right. I just first glanced at it. So, well, since you've let me know that, Lakeisha.
Tony,
you
I
have
will
the
go
floor.
ahead. You could go ahead and ask your question, being that I'm a guest. I'll just wait. We probably have questions, so it's okay.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation. I'm wondering if you might be able to tell us like where things stand locally with the adoption or implementation of that. I know that I've heard the opposition to it saying, oh, it costs too much. I personally support it 100%, but I'd just be curious to know kind of where it stands and maybe what can the Annapolis Human Relations Commissions do to support this?
That's an excellent question. Thank you for that. The blueprint was passed this year over the governor's veto. The governor had, there was a nominating committee that was established to nominate people to be on the Accountability and Implementation Committee board. And they did that job, and the governor had some comment about it, but he did his job and selected 7 people from those nominated to become members of the Accountability and Implementation Board. One of those people is Britt Kerwin, who led the commission. Now, they were just named on the 1st. So they have not had an opportunity to do anything yet. There is already opposition in the winds where people are trying to, as usual, bring up side issues that will take up the space. One of those is critical race theory. And most of the people who talk about critical race theory don't even have an idea what it is. Because it started in law school. It was all about studying about law. And do we need to study about race? Absolutely. In fact, one of the courses in the schools that they have here in Anne Arundel County is called Global Citizenship in the Community. Global Community Citizenship course. And it's about people learning how to talk to each other and understanding something about each other's background and how to communicate and find out information on their own. It's a very good course when taught properly. I happen to be on the advisory committee for that. And I think a lot of people who are on the Board of Education don't even recognize how important that course is. It took a while to get that approved, by the way. So the situation, I would say, is that we're just getting started here. I don't think that the school system has put enough effort into it, even though it was passed a year ago and vetoed by the governor. The school system had started looking at it, and they absolutely dropped looking at it because they weren't sure it was going to get passed. Well, isn't that a little crazy? You have a system that's talking about how to improve education, and they stop looking at it. So that tells you something about why we have to be talking about this all the time.
Okay, Lakeisha.
Yes, thank you so much. I do have a quick question. I saw that in your presentation, you were talking about the economic or income gap. So I have a twofold question. The first one is in regards to the 21st century employment. Does the blueprint or the commission look at what are the jobs that are considered, 21st century? And is there any discussion with the Board of Education or with the schools to kind of tailor the academic structure to help foster that or be able to live up to the 21st century employment need or requirement?
That's a good question, Lakeisha. I tried to point that out, that career technical education is an important part of the 11th and 12th grade. So you have an option as a student to be on the college course or be in the career and technical education course. And career and technical education course is all about finding a career that you want and then working toward being able to have that career start when you get out of high school, or be in an apprenticeship, or follow that career so that it'll be a career for you as one of your first careers, because the expectation is that people in the 21st century will have somewhere around 5 different careers in their lifetime. So learning for life is an important part of this. That's why being college and career ready by the end of the 10th grade is so important. Also, workforce development boards are in fact working to ensure there are 21st century jobs. Now that effort started before this blueprint and it will continue, but I think there's probably going to have to be some more money put into that so it's more organized. In some of the competing school systems, students don't go to the school counselor to find out about careers. They go outside of the school to a place where hundreds of career people are there to talk to them about what this career is about, what you have to go through to get involved in that career. In the high school, we have high school counselors that have a couple hundred students, and there's no way they can possibly deal with it, helping every student. So I'm hopeful that that will change.
Are there other questions?
Thank you for your response.
You're quite welcome.
Other questions for Mr. Jones? I would just like to have a clarifying question, Mr. Jones. You said earlier that you didn't think that the school system has put enough emphasis on this. When you said school system, were you referring to the Maryland State Board for Higher for Education, or were you referring to the Anne Arundel County's Board of Education?
That's a good question. First, I was responding to Jeremy about the local school system, which he asked about. But the local school system, well, let me say this, the state has a new superintendent.
Mhm.
This new superintendent will very much be involved with this. And the state superintendent in the blueprint era will have more power because the state superintendent is going to have to do more things than the superintendent did in the past. Tricia has her hand up.
I do.
Hello,
So,
Tricia.
So in the past, I've sat on a business advisory board for one of our county high schools. And I think what happens a lot of times is you kind of get into a hyper focus because the principal has a lot of influence, a lot of control on the focus of the curriculum, what kinds of courses are offered, et cetera. Certainly there's some standards and some expectations at the at the school board or the school administration level. But what I've found is a lot of biases that exist in terms of who is channeled and who is provided what kind of resources. And I've often, just from my experience in human resources for a very long time, I see that a lot of times at the detriment of other occupational valid and valuable educational pursuits to help with having people that are in the trades, having individuals that are quite capable of growth in those kinds of more, we don't understand them as more technical industries. We kind of, it's like you're either academically in the bachelor's, the master's track, or you're performing less important work. And a lot of times I see the degree pursuits that individuals are going after doesn't translate well into the employment arena. So it's a couple of things that I hope that this 21st century employment focus is taken into consideration. And I'm not sure that it is without some real interventions from the employing world, those that are dealing with employee shortages, difficulties in filling occupations or positions that are hard to fill, and really just having even growth within an occupational series so that you're preparing somebody who may have come in at a lower level for higher opportunities that, there's very few jobs anymore that don't require some computer technology experience. And just, preparing individuals for growth within their own professional series, an understanding of that, and therefore a preparation for that. And
I think you're right. And I think that's one of the things we have to keep looking for, because you could become a carpenter, or you could become a plumber, or, if you don't become a contractor, because you weren't taught that that's part of the career path, people don't have contractors that they need.
right.
Like our church was looking for a contractor, a minority contractor. And they had a dickens of a time finding a minority contractor, because in Anne Arundel County, there are no African-American contractors. Imagine that.
Yeah.
All the building going on here. So that's one of the things we have to keep looking out for. Now, let me tell you, I showed Ginny Romedy, because computing is a big thing in this society. And there's thousands of jobs, even here in Maryland, that are going unmet because people are not prepared.
Right.
And one of the big things in the blueprint is that teachers are going to be paid more. And yet, Anne Arundel County just opened up a new high school, and every one of these high schools has a signature program. Do you think the county made that teaching and education? No, they did something different. But where is the county in terms of the blueprint? What the blueprint is doing is lighting the way, and we're not following it. So I'm on the commission, the Joint Commission on the opportunity gap, and eliminating the opportunity gap. And I certainly will be talking about these things, because it just doesn't make any sense. It's human relations related. There's no doubt about it.
It is. But the point I was trying to make is that we're making this great divide. And I feel like there's quite a divide between the higher education and other, whatever you want to call that. And it's there's a social divide, or a social caste that's put on that as well. And I find that a lot of individuals that go into the trades at the school level, because again, I've sat on interview panels and the like, for mock interviews for high school students before going on. And there's a great severely missed opportunity for making sure those students are prepared with the technical skills, the understanding of the impact of mathematics, and it's not a matter of that you took a shop course and then eventually you decide you're going to be a carpenter. It's really understanding the need for the profession in those rudimentary educational elements, and also for growth within their industry that they end up choosing.
So I think what you're pointing out is very important, and that's why education has to start earlier. And every student really needs to learn that math and science is very important in their life.
Yes. Even for managing their household.
That is correct.
Keisha has her hand up.
Hi, I just have one other question. You showed a slide where you showed the different counties and the percentages of students that I think was prepared for college.
At the end of the 10th grade.
At the end of the 10th grade. Okay, so Carroll County, Frederick, and I believe one more were like up in their 50 percentile in preparation for college. My question to you, and I think this is more opinionated than you actually having some statistical data to back it. Do you think that if the cost for secondary education and or higher education was more affordable, that then there will be more opportunity for students to acquire such level of education? And is that also being looked at in the blueprint as the cost to even pursue secondary and or higher education?
I think that's an excellent question also, and one that we've done a little research on this in my group, and I think it's appalling that the people who go to community college who are actually college and career ready, only 37% of them are in their trade or career at the end of 12 years from high school. And a good deal of that has to do with money, affordability, but it also has to do with other things that Human Relations Commission is concerned with. Housing is one of them, and transportation is definitely another one. It's hard to get to the community college. In fact, if you live in any of the low-income housing developments here in Annapolis, it's hard to get anywhere. So that definitely has a big impact on every level of education. I hope that the Human Relations Commission is helping our governments to move toward mixed income housing, where it's seriously mixed income housing, because when we start living together, we'll have a better idea of how to solve the problems that we have in our society.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been a most informative conversation that we've had. Excellent presentation, as well as good questions from commissioners and others. But are there other observations that folks would like to raise with Mr. Jones? Any other questions? If not, I would like to thank you very, very much, Mr. Jones, for being here tonight. I think you can tell by the quality of questions that's been asked, the interest that the Human Relations Commission has, both the one in Annapolis as well as our counterpart in Anne Arundel County. And I would applaud the leadership that you have shown in helping this initiative move forward, and with the ability that we're going to continue to make progress in this area. You're also welcome, if you wish, to stay for the remaining part of the commission meeting. So you can see what other activities that we will be engaging in. So you're feel free to stay for as much of it as you would like. We are going to return back to the agenda, and our first item is to be taken up is the staff liaison report. I'm going to call on Claudia Barber, I believe is on, to give us a report on from her vantage point. Claudia, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Claudia.
Thank you, Dr. Thornell Jones, for your presentation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. He plays a significant role with the Anne Arundel County NAACP. He serves on our education committee, and we appreciate all of the work that he does for us. The staff liaison report that we have is is not long today. Because I believe we presented the awards for the youth at the public school level, and I believe also the private school awards, the annual awards that we administer, and I hand-delivered those over to your chair's home for presentation. And I gather Mr. Kelly can take it from there. But that's all that we have on the staff liaison. We continue to serve the needs of the Annapolis Human Relations Commission in making sure that those who do not have access, let's say, to the internet have their reports or their agenda items mailed to them. So we continue that service as well. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Judge Barber. And in terms of the chair's report, I would just simply note that I have received a lot of really positive response to the candidates forum, which the commission sponsored just I guess a few weeks ago. We had, I think, a good turnout in terms of candidates. Mayor Buckley was personally there, and it was an informative evening. With respect to the next item of business, which we have on our agenda, it is the selection of the recipient of the Commission's award at the 2022 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Breakfast. The Dr. Martin Luther King Breakfast Committee has been considering a number of different options that it has for the event this year. You'll recall that last year that the breakfast did not convene. The decision has been made by the committee to hold the breakfast this year in a virtual fashion. In other words, it will be done similar to the way in which the Dr. Martin Luther King dinner was conducted last year. And so we have been, all of the participants, all of those who have sponsored candidates in the past, who have provided an individual who would be recognized. All of those organizations, which does include the City of Annapolis Human Relations Commission, we need to provide the name of a recipient as well as the usual background information, the bio and the photo by October 31st. And that's a hard and fast deadline. So what I'd like to ask is, knowing that this is sort of short notice, I did include it on the agenda that we will need to take action on this matter by October 31st. If there's any nominations that individual would like to put forward at this meeting to be our selection for the Dr. Martin Luther King Award that's presented at the annual King Breakfast.
Jeremy. Jeremy has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know, I always, yeah, yes, Jeremy. I'm sorry, I wasn't looking. I'm still getting used to the hand raise function on this. I'm used to people just are jumping in. So
I don't know how to do it.
yes, Jeremy.
Well, first, I guess I have a question about who's eligible to be nominated, and that will inform maybe who my nomination is. Are we able to nominate someone that has recently passed away?
Well, okay. Let me answer the question. You've got two questions. The first question is, what is the criteria? It has to be a resident of Anne Arundel County, not necessarily Annapolis, but a resident of Anne Arundel County whose career has shown a reflection of Dr. King's work as a humanitarian. So that's the only criteria. The person would have to be a resident of the county. In terms of whether or not we could select someone who was deceased, to the best of my knowledge, there's no prohibition on that. I don't think the commission has ever done this. I can't remember whether this has actually happened at the breakfast. I can remember a couple of times it's happened at the dinner, but I don't think it's a disqualifying one. But if we did select someone like that who had passed away, I would notify the memorial breakfast committee right away to make sure they didn't have an objection to it. Okay, having said all that, you have a name.
Yes, I would like to nominate Candace Antwine, who was on the Board of Education, and she's been a fierce advocate for equity and equality on many different issues. Most recently with the LGBTQ policy that was just passed back in March of this year, or maybe it was in December when it first went to the policy committee. Candace Antwine was speaking, sort of made it an urgent issue because she recognized that there are students that were suffering right now, and helped kind of expedite the process to get it to the full board. And it passed on, I believe it was June 16th by the full board. So that was a really quick timeline for an important policy. And she's done many other things with her time on the board for equity and equality for students. So I would like to nominate her.
Okay, and how do you spell her last name?
I believe it's Antwine, and let me just confirm that real quick. Okay, I'm getting a thumbs up, so I think that's right.
Okay, all right, that's Candace, Candice. Okay, all right. Let me just ask this question though before we go any further. Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Okay, do members of the commission approve of the nomination of Candace Antwine posthumously to be our recipient for the Humanitarian Award at the 2022 King Breakfast?
I do.
Okay, all right. Okay, I will state, it'll be stated that nomination was approved by the commission by common consent. Jeremy, what I would like to ask you to do here, if you could send me a bit of a description, I know you've provided verbally, but a bit of a description about her. And I will then share it with the person who coordinate, the two people who coordinate the King breakfast event to get their approval for it. And then what we will need to do, assuming they say, yeah, that's fine, is there are two things. One is that we will need to have a formal write-up of a bio for her. And then secondly, if it's available, a picture. And the picture has to be of a certain kind. In terms of the presentation, I would expect, although I'm not on the committee, it would be my expectation that the committee will probably interview individuals and they'll tape their comments. So we would have to have a representative for Candace Entwine to actually make that presentation. And I'm sure they would be delighted to have you do it, Jeremy, but it would be up to the committee in terms of how they plan to arrange the event. I don't know how they're going to do it. There certainly won't be a breakfast, and there certainly probably won't be the sharing of plaques and things like that as they've had in the past. But again, since I'm not part of the committee, I really don't know what they plan. But if you could send me right now, just send me just a brief biographical sketch. I will share it with a couple of people who are on the committee, make these decisions, explain the conditions and the decisions of the commission. And then once I get an approval from them, they give thumbs up for it. Then we will move forward to collect the other information that's needed. And what we need by October 31st, the only thing we need by October 31st is that biographical sketch and a picture. And I'll send you the specifications for the picture. It's real detailed. Hopefully we will have something that we can use. But I'll have to await the committee on that. But in the meantime, just send me the bio sketch and I will immediately send it off to the King committee. So thank you for that nomination, Jeremy. I think it's a very deserving nomination. I didn't really know very much about Miss Entwine, but I know there was a great deal of grief that was pouring out from the community when she suddenly passed away.
Mr. Chair, I might add, if Jeremy wishes to obtain a more detailed biographical information, he may reach out to Dana, who is one of the Board of Education members who sat next to her, who is very well aware of all the contributions she made to the school board, including her participation in the anti-bully policies, which would again kind of solidify her work in a humanitarian way that emulates Dr. King's legacy and what he stood for.
Okay, and who is Dana?
Dana is a school board member that worked and was as a co-school board member with Candace, that worked with Candace side by side together.
You know what her full name is?
Dana, I want to say Shandleheim, but Shalheim. Okay.
Can you spell that?
I messed it up. I think I messed it up.
I'll have to look the spelling of that one up. Hang on.
Okay, I want that for the minutes. I want to make it. I'll put that in the minutes. That Chloe made that suggestion. So if you can look up the spelling of her name, I'll make sure that I
get that to you now. It's
okay.
SCH
Right.
LL H-E-I-M.
Okay. Boy, you get the spelling bee award for the evening for that.
Oh,
Very,
I
very
looked it
good. The magic of the internet. Okay, well, I will send you an email message on this, and we can move forward on this. I think it's an excellent nomination. Our next item on the agenda is a discussion about vacancies on the commission and actions to be taken. And I've actually done a little research on this, which I'd like to share with the commission before we actually go into a conversation about this. Looking at some statistical information that was collected as of August. This is just about a month or so ago. The number of boards and commissions that there are in the city of Annapolis. There are 17 boards and commissions. And right now, among all those boards and commissions, there are 34 vacancies, or an average of 2 per board. So there's lots of vacancies out there. The number of vacancies on the Human Relations Commission is 5. That's more than any other board. Now, the reason for that, in large part, is because we have a very large size. There's 15 statutory positions on the commission, and that is tied for the largest number of commissioners. It's tied with the Transportation Board, which also has 15 members. The median number of members of all commissions is 9. That's the median. And the mean, or the average number of members, is 10. So the typical commission has between 9 or 10 members. So we're much higher than that. Now, I had proposed in an email message to commissioners that we consider supporting a legislation that would reduce the number of commissioners to the mean or the median. In other words, 9 or 10. The response to that, I got 2 very different responses to that. From commissioners, I got a very cool response. Commissioners I guess the best way of describing it is that folks just didn't like the optics of it, that the commission that's supposed to be focusing on diversity was really trying to reduce its size. At the same time, the comment was the optics of us having 5 vacancies and having that information on our website, which it is, that looks bad too, because it looks like that, that there's no interest in us, or there's something wrong with us. I did receive a response, though, from the coordinator of boards and commissions for the city. And she said, that's a great idea. We're going to be looking at all the boards and commissions on this, and I'd be happy to support talking to the mayor about introducing legislation on that. I didn't respond back to her because I'm just in the port of collecting the information. Other suggestions that were made was to reach out to city council and to members on the Social Justice Network. But actually, I had already done that. I had sent an email message to individuals on my email list, which is about over 100 people around the city, as well as to each member of city council. I got no response at all in terms of suggested individuals. In the 25 years that I have served on the Human Relations Commission, it has been rare when all 15 positions have been filled. I can really only remember 1 or 2 times that we actually had a full 15-member commission. And once we've come close to falling into single digits, as we are now, I feel obliged to take some kind of action, some kind of remedial steps. I'm personally open to ideas and suggestions. What I don't support is that we just simply maintain the status quo and just sort of hope for the best. We're right now at 10 members. And so once you reach that number, I feel obliged to say we need to move ahead on this in some way. Jeremy, I recognize getting used to seeing that hands up. I'm on other boards and I do this all the time, but for some reason I just wait for people to jump right in. But Jeremy, you've got some thoughts about this.
Yeah, I would like to offer a compromise, and then I would love to hear from other commissioners. But making sure that all constituencies are represented or have the chance to be represented. I would feel a little nervous about taking it down to 9 or 10. So I'd like to present a compromise of 12 commissioners. I know it's hard when it's with volunteer boards and commissions, to find folks that have the time to serve. But I've been working with the organization, that I'm part of, Annapolis Pride, to try to inform people about the commission and why it's important, for folks to participate. So it's my hope that with some greater community engagement from from City Council. I know it's election season, so they're a little bit underwater, but from City Council and other groups like Annapolis Pride or Center of Help or other, just reaching out to all the different partners in the community to let them know that there are vacancies. And I know that like the NAACP sent out an email recently with vacancies for the county Human Relations Commission. And I may have missed the one for the city, but that was what I wanted to present as sort of a compromise.
Okay. All right. Other thoughts on this?
It could be inserted in the NAACP's newsletter about the vacancies. And there are other kind of social justice activists like Tony Pratt Strong or Tony Spencer as people to consider to reach out to.
Okay, is there support on the commission to request that we reduce the number of the commission from 15 to 12? That would take action by City Council.
I would support that.
Okay. Any objection? Any objection?
No.
Okay, all right, I will let the coordinator boards and commissions know that the commission's amenable to reducing its numbers to 12, but that does not relieve the responsibility of city officials to help us to achieve that number. One thing that I think commissioners can do is, if you know somebody who you think would be a good commissioner, recruit them, invite them to apply. We've gained some really good commissioners over the years in terms of that approach. I certainly think that that's one way that we can achieve the goal. And I think that 12 that's a number that I think would make it easier for us. So I will let the coordinator boards and commissions know this. I don't expect any action on this until after the new council is seated. There'll be a new city council seated in December. And so the question is going to be a lot will depend on the outcome of the election and other issues before they ultimately will get around to this. And I am going to ask the mayor be the sponsor of this. So I would say the one thing we can do, in addition to letting the city act on our request for reduction in total number of members is for each of us to sort of think through the networks that we have and maybe identify or approach some people who you think would be really good as commissioners. And that might, I think that would be a great help to us. And again, I have no idea whether the city council would approve this or not. We can certainly ask them. If they balk at it, what they're going to hear from me is going to be that they've just volunteered to be responsible for coming up with some new commissioners. I'm in no way embarrassed. I'm no way reluctant to speak truth to power. And I've done it before and I'll do it again. But in any case, we'll proceed in that way. And that seems to be the consensus of the commission. And so that's how we will go. The next item on the agenda is a progress report on the working.
Michael, before you move forward, I have a question regarding recruiting. Do we have a flyer or anything written that speaks to recruitment? That, I mean, there are some people that I am thinking of, and if we had something other than, my memory, do we have something that we can give someone and they can walk away with it and
Yes.
think
The
about
answer is
it?
yes. I will send it to you.
Thank you.
In fact, I'll send it to all commissioners. We've got a one-page. I mean, we do have a brochure, but if you want for more detail, a lot better detailed information, I can send you just a one-pager about the commission. So I can certainly,
Okay.
I'll send it to all commissioners.
Very good. Thank you.
Again, as I was saying, the next item here is the. In fact, I'm going to make a note of this in the thing, so I make sure that I send out info. Okay, and that's a progress report on the working group on police recruitment procedures. And I know Jay Williams has an excused absence this evening. I don't know about Chuck. I had expected Chuck to be here, but both of them are our representatives on the working group on police recruitment procedures. It's actually headed by Tricia Hopkins. Tricia, are you still with us? Tricia?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I was on mute.
Hey, Tricia. No. Is there anything new to report on the working group on police recruitment?
So I don't know if in your, I don't think you met in August, did you?
No, our last meeting was in June.
Okay, so this group met in July the 6th. That was the last time the group met. Unfortunately for me, I've had medical. I've had surgery and kind of a tough recovery after that. So that group has not met again since July. But the focus I want to make sure we all understand is that under the Public Meetings Act, this is not a task force. It's not a separate task force that has independent authority or would be subject to the Public Meetings Law. So this is truly a subcommittee of the Human Relations Commission. And so it doesn't produce a report, doesn't produce minutes, but I can tell you that this group has had a lot of interactive conversation about police recruiting and effective work in that direction. There's been a lot of discussion about evaluating social media presence and people's behavior, their public personas, so to speak, when looking at candidates during the course of their evaluative period for consideration for employment. There was a request to the members of the commission to provide some feedback and to provide some ideas and effective resources for consideration during the hiring process. For example, to help influence the kinds of questions that are asked of the candidates in To date, I haven't received any from the members of this group, but that was something that was posed to them. I know that Claudia has been working directly with the police recruiter to go out and do essentially career fairs, but do on-site recruiting and try to, again, increase that presence in the community so that we're effectively recruiting community members. The police department has had open recruitment for entry-level police officers, and then they always are recruiting for what they call lateral police officers. That just means that they're already certified by the Maryland State Police and Corrections Commission and are members of the sworn community of police officers. Again, those individuals are also vetted through a background process and through a selection process. So it's important that this subcommittee, again, provides a good amount of feedback and uses that opportunity to give feedback to the police department. The commission subcommittee has been attended by the chief of police and or the deputy police chief at all of these meetings. So there's 2 members from the commission. There's 2 members of the caucus that are on this subcommittee, as well as the city government representatives. That includes myself. I'm kind of the hunter-gatherer person. So, my role is not to tell this group what to do, but try to give feedback and to give my own professional knowledge of resources that might be helpful. Again, it's a great opportunity for both the commission members and members of the caucus to have the audience of the police chief, the deputy police chief, and the city managers there as well. I shouldn't discount that. We're talking about those people at the higher ranking levels who are attending these subcommittees.
The city attorney.
And city attorney, well, city attorneys or as the representative. Yes. Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you for that updated report. I would just like to, I always bring this subject up in meetings, and I actually decided to bring the article with me today because I've cited it several times. It comes from the Christian Science Monitor Weekly. Again, the Christian Science Monitor Weekly, if you're not familiar with it, is really, for all practical purposes, a secular media organization. They have very, very loose ties to the Christian Science Church, but they did a report a while back, and I'm just going to quote from it, and it's going to underscore why I think this commission, this subcommittee is its work is so important, especially in terms of how they focus. Now, I'm reading now from the article. Since the year 2000, more than 24 states have unmasked police officers with connections to white supremacist groups. Hundreds of federal, state, and local enforcement officials have expressed racist, nativist, and sexist views on social media, according to a September 2020 report by the Brennan Center for Justice in New York. I'll just reiterate the point I've made before with our commission, and that is, it is extremely important that police officers, that candidates for police officers, be very carefully screened and vetted. There is an active effort underway by the Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, by Boogaloo, all violent extremist groups, to recruit police officers. And once these individuals are hired, contractual agreements and union contracts make it extremely difficult for them to be dismissed, because you enter not only contractual agreements, but you look at First Amendment issues that could be raised. But if they're identified in advance, then they can just simply be not selected. Simple as that. So this is the last time I'm going to raise this issue, but it's one which I think has to be taken very, very seriously, because there is a movement by some very violent, extreme right organizations to seed police departments with people who share their world vision and their perspective on how society ought to be managed. So we look forward to the continued work on this, and I would like to thank Tricia for her leadership with the committee, Claudia for her assistance with it, and then also to Commissioners Chuck Hurley and Jay Williams, who have actually served on it. The final item we have this evening is a report from the Human Relations Commission of Anne Arundel County. Lakeisha, are you still with us?
Hi, yes, I'm still here. I just had to find a mute button.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's one thing you always get. It's never
Right,
can tell
right.
when a report gets popped up.
Right.
All right. What would you like to share about what the Human Relations Commission of Anne Arundel County is doing?
Is working on, yes. So currently we just drafted a fair house. Sorry, let me find my notes. I'm sorry.
Fair housing?
Fair housing complaint procedure. We actually have a draft that's in rotation right now as to what is the procedure when we receive a fair housing complaint, and how to go about, having a meeting on it, or some type of judgment if that's necessary, or if there's a mediation, things of that nature. So that document has actually been drafted by Aisha Smith, who is our new Human Relations Officer. And will be submitted for review and approval. The other thing, is the Fair Housing Complaint Procedures, the name of the document. We also are working, Dr. Jones had mentioned something about CRT, or what is it? I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Critical theory. Dr. Jones, what is the abbreviation again?
Critical race theory.
Critical race theory. Yes. So we are looking into developing. I think this is this is a new term that is not new term, but this is a term that is actually going around in different boards and commissions now. And so we're looking at a way to develop how to educate, how we can educate as the Human Relations Commission on this idea or this theory to the public, whether it be in our school systems, or just in general public. We just started our discussions on that and just kind of doing a little bit of research. We will be meeting on the 6th to further discuss. So Dr. Jones, if I can possibly even get your contact information to maybe even invite you into the conversation at some point, being that you have some education or some logic on this topic as well. So, and then as I mentioned before, we've, I don't know if you've been aware, but Aisha Smith, who I believe is from New York, is our new Human Relations Officer. And she's been doing a fantastic job with kind of helping us kind of organize policies and procedures so that we can have a strong foundation to follow as we to be a more effective and efficient Human Relations Commission board. And outside of that, that is all that I have to share with the group. Any questions for me?
No, Michael, can you give her my contact info, please?
Yes, I can. I
Perfect.
will.
Thank
I
you.
will. I will send her the your email address.
Thank you so very much. Oh, one other thing too. We did actually last month, we had a presentation by a Mr. Pete Hill with the Anne Arundel County office. He's the Director of Diversity, Equality, and Inclusion. And so with that, we are really looking at how can we better support or service our community and with an unbiased reactive or active mode. So we are really looking at different ways to show diversity, equality, and inclusion in how we support our community. And that's the last thing I needed to add. Thank you.
And what did you say his name was? It's Mr.
Pete
Hill? Keith?
Pete, as in P-E-T, Peter,
Oh, Pete Hill.
Edward,
Okay.
Tom. Yep.
All right. All righty. Okay. That concludes our agenda this evening. Are there other matters that members of the commission would like to raise? I would just like to have. I would have one question. We had one person on the call this evening, Miss Proctor. Does anyone know who she is? I know I just got a message here that she said she has to leave the call.
She
But
identified herself as with the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights. MCC.
Oh, okay. All right. So she was their representative. Okay, that answers the question. They're one of our guest organizations. Does anyone have? I'll just make sure. I'm going to put her down for the purpose of the minutes that she was here. Okay. Okay, I would just like to thank once again Dr. Thornell Jones for his presentation, which I thought was extremely informative and very, very hopeful in terms of the direction in which it's going. So thank you, Dr. Jones, for being with us tonight. And I'd also like to thank all of the other folks, members of our commission, Claudia Barber, our staff liaison, Tricia Hopkins, who's the manager of the Human Resources Office of the city of Annapolis. And I think I've mentioned everyone. So we've got a lot of things I'll be following up on. I've got notes here and we'll be following up. And we still have on the agenda something we haven't forgotten. I haven't forgotten it. And that is that we are going to hold public hearings in all of the city wards in Annapolis on the issue of how people have been impacted by hate groups. Been holding off on that until we get the support from the city to actually do this. Right now, there is, I think, a lot of concern, rightful concern, about having open meetings with the Delta variant still very much in force. So just as soon as we are able, that is something that does not need the approval of the commission. The commission's already approved it. this is something we're going to do. And I've also gotten indications of support from Roberto Veloso, who I believe still is serving on the County Human Relations Commission. I believe that he is. He said that they would be certainly would be joining us for at least some of those efforts. So that's something that we can.
Sorry, Mike, can you repeat that one more time? I missed it. What is it? What is the effort then again?
The Human Relations Commission of the City of Annapolis is going to hold a series of public hearings in each of the city wards that will focus on the impact that the experiences that members of the public have had with hate groups. And
Got it. Thank you.
That actually is something that the commission adopted as a result of the town meeting back in February of 2000 at Anne Arundel Community College, which focused on countering hate groups. And so it's been, this is the one thing the commission said we can follow up on. And we did get expressions of interest from Roberto on it, although he said he would, and he said at the time he was speaking for the county commission that in District 6, they would like the Human Relations Commission of City of Annapolis to take the lead, since District 6 encompasses more than the City of Annapolis, but it's I think the major part of District 6. So that's something that we will be doing. Hopefully, I'm very hopeful. This is something that we can engage in sometime next spring. But everything right now continues to be up in the air because of the continued situation with COVID-19. Okay, if there's nothing else, it is 8 o'clock, and we can adjourn the meeting. And there's one person that I would like to, which I didn't mention before, I'd like to thank, and that is Madeleine Harrell, who provided the technology and the technical support for us for this evening. So thank you very, very much on that for your assistance with that, Madeleine. Madeleine, are you still there? I'm sure she's somewhere.
I'm still here. I appreciate it.
Okay, and what was the outcome with respect to item A? Were you able to get in contact with him, or?
She has been on the call pretty much since the beginning. So she's listening in.
Okay, now I want to put it as I'm asking this for the purpose of the minutes. Item A did tell me that she didn't plan to say anything, but she wanted to listen into the conversation, and so I'm very glad that she was on. What specifically, just for the future, so we don't encounter this again, what specifically do people have to do in terms of signing in? Or is this going to be something that each time we're going to have to ask item A to call into the cell phone for those who are doing the technical work? Is that how we're going to have to handle this, Madeleine?
I don't think so, which if you could check in with item A later, because when I spoke to her and her husband on the phone, I gave them like 3 things that I thought might be a problem for them to try, just because we couldn't be in that constant communication. So I don't know which one finally ended up working, but my best guess is that one of the prompts we don't actually have a number for, and you just have to enter a pound key. There's no actual input.
Okay, I'll speak with them. And we'll see for the future if they have got a pretty good handle on it. But I was really happy that we were able to get them on the call. Well, again, I'd like to thank everyone for their participation this evening, and once again, especially to Dr. Thornell Jones for a most informative talk about the Kerwin blueprint.
Thank you very much.
So with this, we're going to formally adjourn, and I hope everyone will continue to